Hipsters are fake, and this is why. I can remember when being a kid and riding the trains was like being on a moving museum. A mobile gallery of art, throw-ups, fill-ins and the likes. Sure, there was a lot of profanity and pictures of things that the public just doesn't need to see without signing an "I am over 18" consent form, but all in all the trains were the place to display your work as a graffiti artist. And, in Brooklyn, graffiti artists were aplenty. Once I hit my teenage years, I found myself immersed in the night rave scene, and this is where I really became exposed to the graph scene. I dated a dude for a while that was pretty heavily involved in all of the negative things that surrounded the rave scene in Brooklyn and Nike in the mid to late 90s. I am confident in saying that he and his crew of misfits pretty much owned most of the prime real estate with respect to graffiti spots in the Brooklyn area. They easily clinched the BQE, the B, now D, elevated subway line, and they were well known amongst the other graffiti crews in the area. I remember late-night bombing missions where we'd all dress up in our black hoodies, jeans and Timbs and make our way down into the various ditches and tunnels of the Nike subway system. The crew got the hot spots and the girls played chickie on the lookout tip. I miss the 90s. When I started dating Daniel, he and I made a point to go out to various artsy events that seemed interesting to us. We both like art on a grand scale. My taste is far superior to his. Just saying. So we thought it'd be nice to incorporate various gallery events as they came up. I remember one of the first events we attended was in a gallery down in Williamsburg. Shocker. The evening was a mixed media of documentary and some hanging art. Amongst the bulk of the hanging art were photographs of graffiti. I noticed that these works were signed by the photographer and that the credit for said art was, in a way, being stolen by lens-toting hipster shoals. It was super unnerving. All around me were these hipstery pretentious shoals who have absolutely no idea of what is entailed with getting the perfect spot to complete a piece that is worthy of being photographed. There are various elements involved when a real artist is canvassing a spot and preparing to throw their paint onto a wall. And then here comes Harry Hipster and his Canon Rebel, or whatever $1,000 camera his parents bought him when he signed up for art school, and he just stands there, presses a button, and calls this his art. Are you fucking kidding me or what, hipsters? They say the best form of flattery is imitation, but this isn't even imitation. Grab a can of curl on and put your artistic skills to the true test. Be original, have a concept of what an artist's process is when they are creating. Do something, but Jesus Christ, don't just sit there, press a button, and then call it art. That is absolute bullshit, and Daniel and I got into a pretty heated debate about this at the gallery that night. For some reason that is completely unknown to me, hipsters love to photograph graffiti. If you go to Flickr and look at any of the street art pools, you will undoubtedly be met with hipster after hipsters photo accounts. Alongside their artistic interpretation of a, say, weed piece, you'll find pics of their nights out spent drinking felonious amounts of PBR. You'll also find many girls in headbands and leg warmers, dudes in skinny jeans, and an air of disgust. I like to think that the appeal of the street art photography is a deep-bred need to be closer to things that are generally urban. They are in love with a culture of which they have absolutely no experience. Moving to Brooklyn and living in a neighborhood alongside other flocking hipsters does not give you street cred. You are not tough. You are not Brooklyn. You are not even New York. And anyone that is New York knows that each native near fits into a subcategory dictated by the borough in which they grew up. Brooklyn is a standalone example of this model of thought. Nearly every trip I take outside of the city I am met with, "You're from Brooklyn, right?" It's not "You're from New York," or "You're from Manhattan," it's "You're from Brooklyn, right?" And that is because people who are truly Brooklynites have no choice but to exhibit it. We are bred with a strength and a character that is dominant. We can take classes to reduce the inflection with which our Brooklyn accents spit out words, but the light inside of us that screams Brooklyn never dies out. We live it, and we live it because we are it. You, hipsters, are not it. You are Kansas, you are Missouri, you're Texas and Nashville. You're Florida, and you're Chicago. You are not now, nor will you ever be, Brooklyn. Brooklyn is earned. Having a 11 zip code does not make you gangsta, tough, or even remotely desirable. I have had a 11-zip code for my entire life, and as this blog dictates, I am dying to step outside of the confinement of the 11-stigma. You cannot, for a moment, begin to break down the complexities of growing up in a borough where poverty dominated. Instead, you come here with your trust funds and you move into buildings that are squat houses because it is cool. Fuck you and your coolness. Get a clue. Get a grip. Get a talent. Stop robbing real street artists of their work. The next gallery show I attend where a hipster is showing a photographed piece of street art better have the original graffiti artist standing next to the framed print signing autographs or some sheet. I'm dead serious. This really enrages me. I'm not sure if it's simply the act of assigning your name to work that is not your own, or if it's the sheer arrogance and stupidity with which a hipster will sink to seem like they're what's really hood. I have seen this time and time again, and I just don't get it. A bunch of people Daniel attended undergraduate school in Florida are hipsters living in Brooklyn, and they're prime examples of this behavior. They attempt to portray what they believe is a hustler's life, and through their dirty clothes and inexpensive flixies, they're out working at jobs where their salary is teetering on 6 figures. Us shoals. You had the luxury of attending college, most likely on your daddy's dime. You went to school, graduated, and have the tools required by the real world to secure a prestigious position. You have secured said position, yet you still want to move throughout the world and act like you're some sort of impoverished defunct. And here I am, at nearly 32 years old, facing the fears of not being financially secure so that I can pursue an education. There are no trust funds in my back pocket, no emergency phone calls to daddy when I can pay my rent. I live in the real world. I am the real Brooklyn. Go the fuck home.